I guess welcome to everybody that's joining. I'm excited about this. My first town hall. Wendy, did you see the chat from Carmi? Do you want him to bring him over to or,
I could.
and I guess just let me know when we can start. I know more people are joining.
Yep, you can go right ahead anytime. It's recording.
Okay. We'll give a few more minutes to people. I know we have close to 100 people that have actually registered for this. So I'm pretty excited about that, but we have about 60 that have joined. So I'll give it another minute or two and then we can go right into it. And I'm hoping we have some time, look at the chat and everything, and hopefully we have some time to answer any questions that people have, because I know there's probably a lot of questions that are out there. And I don't anticipate this to take the full hour. I don't plan on speaking for the full hour. But we have a few other people that do have some things that we want to share. So once we go through this, then we'll open it up to questions. And then if anybody else wants to share, then we can talk about some other things too. Um, but I'm really excited again as this, our town hall, my first one as president. So I'm excited about that too. But we'll give it maybe another minute or so because I'm seeing it's kind of stabilizing with people that are joining, and then we can get right into it. All right. Again, this is my first town hall, so I'm really excited about it. I'm John Nolte. I am the Geospatial Professional Network president, the current president. And as you know, we have gone through a rebranding, and that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about today. This is my first uh, thing as president, and I'm really excited about the transition. I'm excited about everything that we've been doing, and I wanted to go through some of the details of it and talk about it for those that you've been or was at the GIS Pro. We had some conversation around it there, but that was the unveiling. But we have more details, and we also have a little bit of a plan forward moving into some of the other portions of it when we're talking about chapters and other committees and everything and all that too. And so I'm also really excited to talk a little bit about. I didn't put it on the slides, but I do want to talk a little bit about GIS Pro in Denver next year because it's in my hometown, and I'm super happy and really looking forward to what is in store for that. And I see in some of the chat that we'd already have some conversations about people joining the GIS Pro committee. And again, trying to get that to, we will have some fabulous opportunities for you to be part of this. And we have some of that in this presentation as well. So again, I'm John Nolte. I am the current Geospatial Professional Network President, formerly ERISA. Um, See if my slides are working. And they're, yeah, okay. Um, just want to go through a quick agenda. I always have an agenda before I start. Want to talk a little bit about the rebranding process. Also want to talk about the history of ERISA. I think there's a really strong commitment that we have to the original brand, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the fact that we started where we started from, because that tells our history. That tells everything about what we stand for and what we're currently moving into. I mean, that was really going into the details of where we came to this decision on the rebranding effort. We don't want to lose the history of ERISA, and that's one of the biggest aspects of this is that it is obviously a strong brand. It's what brought us together. When I started, it was one of the first things that I saw when I was just starting out in a GIS career way back in 1995. And I felt that I had a place in ERISA from that point forward. I didn't get super involved until about 10 years ago. And I feel like even in the last 10 years, we've seen some of that transition and we've seen some of that, but I don't want to lose that too. And so I want to talk a little bit about the history. I also want to talk about why we came to this decision, how we came to the decision, and then, of course, introducing the Geospatial Professional Network, and then talking a little bit about the brand guide as we're coming into the next iteration of this branding process. And that includes that chapter development. And then I will turn it over at that point to Matt Gerike to talk about how to get involved. Not just on the brand ambassador side, because I feel like we all should be brand ambassadors for this, but also in the side of how to get involved in the chapters and how to get involved in the committees that we have. And then what we're hopefully introducing in the next little while are the communities. We want those communities to be part of this organization as we move forward, because we have such a great community that we've already established here. And we want to make sure that we're supporting all the additional things that we've been coming up with over the last few years. So again, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I know it's a busy schedule. It's been a busy schedule for me. I took a new position, so I've been working through all of that details. But also, just I know that everybody has time during the day and I appreciate that you're taking this time to join this town hall. Because I know it's all busy, and it shows the dedication to the brand, the ERISA and the Geospatial Professional Network brand, because I know you're all invested in this and invested in the future of this, and we want to make this successful. So I do want to thank everybody that joined, and thank you all for being here today. So getting right into it. I have transitions in here I didn't realize that I had. So going through the history, ERISA started out in 1963 on the campus of University of Southern California. And that was the first get together, essentially, the first annual conference. And it really wasn't ERISA at that point. It was just a group of planners, urban and regional planners that got together to have conversations around this technology. And since then, we've seen the transition. In 1966, the Constitution was approved. But as you look through this, and I was trying to pick it out, if you go to the ERISA website, the GPN website, you can see a really, really cool timeline of events that have shaped the geospatial industry. It goes into GIS and IT. It goes into the history of our organization, and it talks all those things. And some of the highlights that I saw that I thought was really interesting is in the 70s, we saw that Landsat 1, the first CAD system that were developed, pen plotters, if you remember that, if you're my age or older and you remember those pen plotters. I used to love to watch them shoot out the paper and do the calibration, but it was always upsetting when you get halfway through the map and the black ink was gone, and then you'd have to go back and reset it and reprint it, and it was just such a nightmare. I remember going to the EPA in 1995, and they had an electrostatic printer, and it was the big technology at that time, and it was such a great thing, but it still took about a half hour to print one of my plots. And you couldn't really do much with the line work, and you had to really figure out how to do all that stuff. And so all those things were kind of shaped the way the geospatial career went. The 80s, we saw MS-DOS, the Esri Arc Info platform, and I started out in Arc Info 5. So I know that there's probably a few people that may have started out earlier than that, but I did it. And I remember getting the book, the original book for Arc Info 5, and accompanying with that, it was a book on AIX, Unix-based AIX at that time, which was the AT&T version, I believe. And it was aches without pains. And I used that as my resource to develop these products that we were doing. And remember 400 or 500 lines of AML, Arc macro language, and we were going through all these different codes. And somebody would ask me for a different color, and I'd have to go back through and debug all this stuff. And really, it was kind of a fun time. But we've seen that transition again to other technologies as we've developed more. The FG, and I have a typo on there, but the FGDC, the internet was developed kind of, actually not developed, but mainstream in the 90s. Then we saw the widespread use of GPS, the OGC, the MS Windows, and the database system. So we saw a lot of changes, and I couldn't even fit all of the things that happened in the 2000s on here. But again, all of this history, we've been involved in that all along the way. We've been involved in the initial development of the GIS systems all the way up to what we're currently seeing. And that's kind of an interesting aspect of it. I was looking the other day with the current iPhones and how you can take terrestrial LiDAR of different images, and you can actually build out those things. And so the technology has changed quite a bit. And it's really incredible to see that. And this is a slide that I thought was really kind of interesting to see how again, going from that urban, and this is the point that I wanted to make, is going from that urban and regional systems that we had to what we're looking at as geospatial careers. And that's really where the transition has happened. We saw the technology. I went through all those slides about the technology and all that, but the transition that we've seen is the people that are involved and how we're using that technology. And that's really where it comes down to the strength of ERISA, where we are, the value that we give back to the community. And looking at this slide and looking at all the different things that are involved in the geospatial career and seeing a lot of this stuff where you have the consultants, the managers, the architects, and all of the aspects of what we do as geospatial professionals. Looking at some of the things that we do in the IT realm, looking at things that we do in some of the subject matters that we have, working with smart cities and working with the technology that we currently have, augmented reality, AI, data science, data analytics that we're building out, dashboards, we're building out experiences, story maps. We're no longer, and I always said this, for years we were the map people. It was talk to the map people, and it's gotten so far beyond that, and I'm so excited about seeing what's next, that we see all of these things that have happened and how we've gotten to this point, and looking at all those things, and that's what kind of started that conversation of where we are currently and where do we want to be in the next 10 years or so, or even further than that. And that was what basically started this conversation on that rebranding effort. And so the branding process, that we started this conversation back in Baltimore. And I remember it was a meeting on the board after the conference, and we were talking about it, and it was brought up, and we said, we really want to start looking at this, because we knew that the geospatial career had changed over the last 10 years, and it's changed again for various reasons. I always felt that when I was trying to explain what I do to somebody, and one of the bad things of dealing with the last 3 years or 4 years with COVID, something that came out of that really helped I feel like a lot of us be able to explain our career better because we saw the John Hopkins dashboard, and it was used extensively across the different platforms, and people were talking about it, and people were talking about GIS, and they were talking about our careers, and they were people were able to communicate better because I could tell them, yeah, did you see that dashboard? That's what we create more than just that, those maps, and maps are still a huge portion of what we do, and it's still one of my favorite things. I have maps all over my office at work. I have maps all over my house. But we've kind of transitioned into that where we're looking really at the data side of things, and we're building out these data sets, and we're building out these databases, and we're making decisions, informed decisions on those data sets, and that's really where our opportunity is. And so we started this conversation. How do we attract new members? We sat for the last 10 years at about 2,000 members. And it's not just about having more members, but also about how do we reach out to the current members and really give them value back, and so that if anybody's familiar with the marketing process, and I was joking at the time. I was going through my MBA, but I was joking at the time that of course I was like, well, I know a little bit about the marketing process because I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last week, but really I was in the middle of a marketing class, and I said, well, we really have to figure out the value of what we offer this community, what we're able to give back, because that's what, when I got to the point in my career where I started to give back, I started to look at where I found value in different organizations, and of course the Geospatial Professional Network, ERISA, was one of those organizations that I really found value in. And what is that value to me? And it was really back in 2014 when I went to the New Orleans conference, GIS Pro. I found the value in the people that were there, and that was something that I really I was looking for a place to belong at that time. I was a consultant in an industry that was really difficult. I was struggling with my career. I was kind of at a crossroads, and I sat for a while trying to figure out where I could get involved. And I had been doing GIS at that point for about 20 years, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with it, but I found the community that I wanted to be involved in. I found the people that were there, and I started in the local chapter. And again, I feel the value of the chapters, and I want to talk about that as a little bit later, was really important. And that was where I found that value initially. And then I started to get involved. I attended the GIS Leadership Academy at that time, which was held in Denver. I went to the New Orleans conference, and I started to get involved in the community that ERISA had at the time. And I saw that it was helping me to develop what I wanted to do in my career. I saw the leadership capabilities. I saw the networking capabilities. I saw all the value in having these relationships in the industry. And that was something that I didn't have before because, again, as I said, I was struggling with trying to figure out where my place was in this organization or in this career. Um, and I found it in ERISA. I found it in the Geospatial Professional Network, and that was really what helped me um, get to where I am now. I was telling the story at the GIS Pro conference in Portland, Maine, and I was talking about this new promotion that I got, and I had heard from the hiring team that one of the standouts for me was because I was involved in this organization, that I was involved in an outside organization and had this type of community because of the network that was developed. And so those were the conversations that we were having at the time. We were sitting in a room talking about that. What is the value in this organization? What is the value that we gives back to this community and the careers that we have? After that, we created this branding X Force, and I'm supposed to do the X Force thing. Um, that was a bunch of us got together and we started talking about what we would do at this point. And it's really hard. One of the things that I did make sure that I talked about and I know it was kind of not it was a what's the word that I'm trying to look for? It wasn't a heated conversation, but it was a very animated conversation back in Baltimore because I knew that if we wanted to do this right, we had to hire a company to do that. We couldn't do this with volunteers because we wanted to make sure that we were capturing what we were as an organization, as well as we wanted to make sure that we weren't just relying on the time that volunteers put into this because even though we have fabulous volunteers, it takes a lot of time and effort to really get into the details of a marketing proposal and a branding and a rebranding. And so we created this branding X Force. We developed an RFP during that process, and we hired Niagara Designs. And I think both Carol and Carmi Niagara are on this call, and I appreciate everything that they did because one of the reasons that we looked at hiring, they had an incredible portfolio, but they also had GIS experience, and having that part of it to explain to somebody what we do was really integral into this process because developing value proposition and having that built out when people don't understand what we do as a profession is difficult. And we felt that we were very comfortable with the fact that they were able to do this. Um, After that, the beginning process of that value proposition was we built and distributed a survey to our entire database. And this included members, non-members. It included people that had been part of the organization before that had dropped off. And we wanted to capture why they were part of the organization, what value they got from it, and also capture why they weren't part of the organization. And so we had a really extensive survey. We went through that and came up with the value proposition. And as during that process, we built out a focus group, and that focus group looked at the current members again, various levels of the organization, and we going back to that same conversation that we had in Baltimore. What is the value of this organization? What is the value that it brings? And everybody had that same consensus that it's the people of this. And we all know that. I mean, that's part of our community. It's the people that are part of this. And so it's one of those that we really want to make sure that we capture that in that value proposition. We want to build out that for that community and be that next organization that people join because of that. And we all know that value, but we want to make sure that that's captured in the brand that we came up with. And as a result, we came up with this value proposition. The Geospatial Professional Network is a dynamic community of GIS professionals providing top-tier education, networking opportunities, and career development resources. Committed to upholding the highest ethical standards, GPN empowers members to advance their careers, support their organizations, and shape the future of the geospatial profession. And I really feel like that captures what we do and captures it really well. And this was, we were sitting again in Portland when we do get together face to face at times as a board, and we sat there and we really spent some time trying to hammer this out. And it was at this point we hadn't even decided what the name would be. We were trying to figure that out as we were going further with this and the branding process and looking at all these different things. And we really wanted to make sure that what we captured here was going to be something that we could stand for the next 10, 15, 20 years, hopefully even 60 years, as we look at how old our organization is at this point. And that's this value proposition. Everybody had input and came up with this. Of course, it went through a couple of iterations, but we really feel that it captures exactly what we are as an organization, as a community. And while we developed this, we started thinking about what that meant. And that's where we started to look at changing the name. Next slide is that review process, right? And so while we were sitting there, do we just shorten the name and use the acronym and kind of lose that urban and regional side to just ERISA and use that Esri model? Or do we create a new tagline? we had this tagline that we came up with a few 5 or 6 years ago. We changed the Eurista National conference to the GIS Pro. Those were the types of things that we were looking at, and we had everything on the table. We wanted to make sure that we had everything on the table. Do we continue with just the current name and try to figure out how to capture more members, or do we transition to a new name? And that's where we used an additional focus group. We looked at bringing in different people into that conversation. Again, trying to capture all of the aspects of our community and the organization that we had as a whole, and build out from there. And I'm extremely proud that during that time in Portland, we had come up with this geospatial professional network. And I feel like with the value proposition and the new brand, we have the opportunity to really focus on what we can be in the future without losing what we were in the past. And I think that's really important is we still focus on where we were and how we got here. And I don't want to lose that. And I don't think we will lose that with what we're trying to do with the new brand. And I feel like the Geospatial Professional Network captures who we are as an organization. It captures who we want to be, and it will give a lot of people the opportunity to see the value from that value proposition into the new brand. And that's what I'm really excited about. So the next steps with this is that we're working with Niger still. And so this process, and it takes three plus years to get to where we are now. And I do again wanted to call out Niger Design for helping us get to where we are, because we asked them to accelerate it. We wanted to be able to unveil this name during the GIS Pro conference, and it took a lot of time and effort to do so. We spent a lot of time on our end doing these focus groups and these conversations, and it's building out this plan to develop this, and leaving it back to the what now that we came up with a name, now that we have the value proposition, we're going to have to get a new design for the logo. And we pushed it back to the Niger group and had them develop these logos. And it was really kind of a fun process because we all had an input into it, and we came up, there was different designs, and they came up with fabulous designs, and some of them were the pins that we see quite often in a lot of those. And we went back and forth, and we had a group of about 35, 40 people that went back and forth with it to look at what we were coming up with. And that was what the design that of course the logo that we came up with was a consensus that we decided, because it captures a lot of the networking part of it. And so what many people may not know is the scatter plot that we have as the around that geo is a of course a GIS portion of an application that we can do. It's a scatter plot, and it represents the network. And we even talked about each one of those points being nodes in the network, and that could represent the chapters, it could represent the committees, it could represent the people that are part of that network. And then the font and the colors, as well as we came up with a new tagline: connect, innovate, and lead with GIS, because I feel like that's what we do, and that's what we do really well. And so that next steps with this brand guide, we're going to be able to use that to develop into the chapter model, and we're going to be able to build out from this a cohesive brand strategy that allows for the transition to the chapters, the communities, the committees that we represent, the vanguard, um, the volunteer parts of the organization, all the different aspects of our community will be uh, part of this new branding process. And we want to make it easy too. So we're working really hard with Niger to make sure that that brand guide will come out. We'll be able to work with the chapters to build out that transition. And hopefully by the end of this next year at GIS Pro in Denver, we will have that comprehensive brand, the cohesive across the organization, where all the chapters will have the new brands in place. We'll have all that, so we can really start talking about how we can build out the future. And some of the ideas that we had, and again, these are just kind of part of that branding process, but one of these, I just wanted to share these. We're going to be working with the chapters. These were just part of that initial phase of branding, but these are some of the things that there's a possibility that we've come up with, where we are using the different colors, the GPN as a point. We also have URLs, the geospatialprofessionalnetwork.org, thegpn.org, that we will be using moving forward. We're talking about how to build out a better strategy for chapters, how we want to make sure that the chapters are part of this journey as well. And really, work with them, because we know that the chapters are going to be the heart of the transformation. We know that the chapters are part of that organization where a lot of the local community is involved, and that's where the brand ambassadors will really take off. And I feel like I want to make sure that not only through this rebrand, we're not just changing the brand to make it so that we're more inclusive. We're changing the brand to build out the future, to work with the chapters and the communities and the committees that are a part of our organization to uh, build out that strategy that we can I'll give more of this back. We're strengthening those models. We're strengthening those the levels of where we're going to build out from. And I'm losing my words here. I had it all written down, but now I'm at a loss. But the creating these pathways that we have from the organization, the headquarters organization, the international portion of it, to these chapters. So we're looking at not only using this brand as a launching point, but we're also trying to build out new webinars and new ideas of educational opportunities. Again, the communities that we're developing, where we're developing the first four that we built out. And it's the local, regional, the merging professionals, and the utilities, and I can't remember the fourth one. But these are communities that we're going to be developing with common interests, and we're going to start looking at how we can build out from those, as well as the chapters. We want to make sure that we don't lose that portion of it, of our organization too. Um, and then, of course, the hopefully establishing the brand for the future as we go out into the emerging professionals is one of the ways. And it's not just the young members, and I got to make sure that we're not just talking about the younger members, because we do want to capture that, but it's also people that are getting into GIS late in the career. I was a part of uh, a group here that was a local community college, and they had a GIS certificate. And what we saw in that GIS certificate was people that were coming in late in the career. They might have been in IT, they might have been in something else. There was a few people from oil and gas that got into the profession at a later date, and they again didn't have that community to fall back on. And that's also what we want to capture. We want to make sure that we're capturing those people and having that sense of community. And maybe they're getting into leadership roles, maybe they're getting into different areas. So we're building out that educational platform, that, and continuing what we currently have too. And that's going to be something that we're really excited about. And it's almost a perfect segue to that. But before I get into that, I do want to shout out and thank you. Brent Jones started this process. He was the president at the time, but he really was looking at how we can build out from this, also capturing some of the folks that had lost some of their organizations. So he was talking, he is a surveyor and we have a lot of surveyors that were part of that. But we want to, there was some organizations that had disbanded at the time, and that was what he wanted. He was afraid that some of the things that we did really well during COVID, but a lot of other organizations were um, having difficulty, and that was where this conversation started. So I do want to thank him. Thank, of course, Niagara Design, Carol and Carmi. They're both on that. Also want to thank the brand X Force team that was set up during this time, which is part of the marketing team. And I feel that we had some great conversations around this. And then, of course, Wendy and the staff for helping us get through this. But at this point, we'll turn it over. I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Matt Gerike to talk about how to get involved in the new Geospatial Professional Network.
Thanks, John. Get my screen shared. All right. Hope everybody's having a fabulous Friday. So as we embark on this rebrand and regrounding ourselves and our identity, a lot about our organization stays the same. And if we look on the web page under leadership and history, where we have our mission and our goals, that's where we can find that updated statement, the value proposition that John was talking about. But our strategic goals remain the same. You know, we as an organization want to protect, promote, and grow the geospatial profession. We're all about supporting all of us and each other and those that we meet that are geospatial professionals and want to be geospatial professionals or retired geospatial professionals or trying to figure out what sort of geospatial professional they are at all stages of their careers with training and resources, and sustain and strengthen the organization. And that is GPN, that's us, that's our networks, that's our groups, that's our committees. And doing that, you know, sharing that throughout the profession. So there are always a number of ways to get involved, ranging from lower term commitments to longer term commitments. But really the best way is through our committees and work groups. We do have a link. If we hover over here, some of our committees do have different pages or web presences. But if we want the full list of committees and work groups, if we just click on that committees and work groups there, and this is a story map that's been put together to help kind of give an overview of what different folks do, and also kind of indicate some ways to get involved. Like many things on our website, all of this will change as we work on getting a little bit further down the line with the branding guidelines and rolling that out. But essentially, it's who we are and how we cluster into committees under ERISA structure to help do the work and do things that we find value in. It's important to note that some committees are more restrictive in who gets involved, and that's more based on what that committee does and the work that they do. And so Vanguard Cabinet, for example, there's an application process for that. Past presidents, you have to be a past president. Leadership development, that tends to be the past president, and they present a slate to the board of who they'd like to be appointed to the committee. And those, to really get involved with those, you already kind of have to be involved a little bit. And so it's worth noting that you can't join everything all at once, but there are plenty of opportunities if you found GPN and you started to getting involved and you want to get more involved, that anybody can join. And so if we feel really passionate about what GPN does or helping others find GPN, marketing and membership is great for you. If you are interested in geospatial policy at the local level, the state level, the national level, the international level, the Policy Advisory Committee is well positioned to meet your needs, or if you want to learn more about it, it's a great opportunity there. Some of our other committees, they function to help everyone out. And so our pro-equity and anti-racism committee pair really tries to help our organization reach the goal of being more pro-equity and anti-racist. Climate and community resilience kind of does some of that, but they're also a great example of a topical, committee where there are folks that have interest in climate and community resilience. They are doing a fabulous webinar series. They've done about one every month for the last 13 or 14 months. But they're working on some other things, and one of the things that they're helping our organization do is what does it look like when an organization is resilient and is equitable in terms of those considerations. If you like helping people out, professional education is a great way to get involved. And I say that because the Professional Education Committee overall, their job is making sure that if you're involved with GPN in any way, you're part of a committee, you're part of an interest group, you have an idea that you want to share, and you're not sure how you want to share it, or you're not sure how to get that shared. Maybe it's through a article in the GIS Professional or in ARC News. Maybe it's a webinar. Maybe you have a great idea for a panel discussion. Maybe you want to do a geospatial fact sheet. Maybe you'd like to do a podcast. Maybe it would be a great workshop. PEC tries to make it easy for folks, no matter how they're engaged in GPN, to find a good modality for their idea and get it out there and add to that value, add to that wealth of value in the professional education content that our organization has generated and produced. If you're more of an ideas person, or if you like helping organize different things, we do get ideas from time to time where there really isn't a current part of our organization that does that, or that may align with. And so if there's a topic for, hey, there's this person over here talking about GIS governance, and there's a person over here talking about GIS governance, this person over here talking about GIS governance, but they're doing so in a way that really isn't climate and community resilience, and it really isn't the location, enterprise, addressing, and public safety committee. And it's really not something that aligns with any of the other committees, but there's some value there, and that really aligns with what we hear that folks want, and that would help strengthen our organization and strengthen our profession and meet people where they're at in their career path. Professional education also, kind of takes those ideas and works to assemble those and produce content in that way. So those are just a few of the ways to get involved through committees, and there's a wealth of committees that are out there. If you're interested in more of a topical idea or organizational idea that really may not make sense to be a committee, this idea of communities that John was talking about is something that we're looking to grow over the next year. Many of you live in areas where there is a regional chapter. And I saw some things fly in the chat that folks are looking for nominations right now from some of the different chapter boards. That's also a great and fabulous way to get involved. As you scroll down this page, there is more detail about some of those different committees and ways to get involved, and maybe some more information on what's involved. This is also great because it does kind of list, hey, if you're involved with the committee, how much time is that? And so usually a committee meets once a month, and there may be, a meeting or some after action stuff. You can get more engaged, especially if you want to get involved in committee leadership. But many of these groups, if it's just attending a meeting, you're going to find these opportunities for these, kind of one-off tasks or smaller things where you can contribute and help out with what that committee is working on. So plenty of ways to get involved. The best advice to get involved is to find that way to plug in. And when you start plugging in and maybe just trying out different meetings, or maybe just chatting with other folks that are involved in the organization. You'll likely find, some of those organizational traits that John was talking about, and that I know I have in my story of my career, and many different folks that have been involved in the organization have, about start attending meetings, talking to people. You don't have to speak up in the meeting, maybe you connect with them outside the meeting, and just find those opportunities where you find value. And if you find value, that also provides an opportunity for you to give back by adding value as a volunteer to the rest of our organization. John?
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I think that was our, do we want to invite anybody else, or do we want to just try to take questions now? It's 1:45 on my time. Do we have, oh, there you go. Now Tim is coming on.
Yep. Tim can talk about the membership committee and the book club.
Perfect.
All kinds of cool stuff.
There we go. Sorry, I've got my other gear. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, we're reading Radical Candor this month, and we're going to have our discussion in mid-December. I think it's December 13th. These have been really popular. We've done this now. I've done this with Rachel out in California for over a year. And they're really good party conversations, and we always, it's always a nice time. And it's only about an hour, we spend about an hour on it. We also have monthly meetups, and we'll start that back up. And usually it's the first Tuesday of each month, so that'll be not sure the date, but first Tuesday of December, probably get that going again. Sometimes we do open discussions, topic discussions, just kind of anything goes. But we usually get a pretty good draw of folks for those types of things too. So we're trying to just do things that it's not about just growing members, but just like, if you're already a member, let's do a few, let's have some fun with it. So those are a few things we've done. And then of course we have, as Matt mentioned, literally monthly webinars, sometimes multiple webinars that are open to everybody, open to just members. But they're really, really good content. It's something I think we provide as an organization better than anybody.
Thanks, Tim. It was an impromptu visit from Tim.
There was a question in there about, we moved over to Connect. We've been referring to it as ERISA Connect. There's a URL that's ERISA Connect. What does the future of our Connect platform look like?
From what I understand, the Connect platform is your membership is what we've been using, and we're going to continue to use. We will just use a rebranding effort on that. So we're also trying to expand some of the use of it, because we're trying to get off of some of the other tech stack that we have currently. And we're really trying to utilize that as a way for people to as a resource, as basically building out that resource that we can continue to use as that membership platform. And so one of the values of being a member of the Geospatial Professional Network is having those resources available. We're also the learning management system that we are going to be hopefully deploying with some information on a lot of the different platforms that we have, the different educational opportunities with webinars and things like that. We're also looking at utilizing that in the future. And so Connect will be that resource that you use for the network, as well as gaining information from those types of things.
Matt, would you like to pull up and share ERISA Connect? Because I'm sure some of the folks on this call have not really jumped in.
I can do that. And While I'm doing that, there's a question from Katana in chat. Maybe Wendy, you could speak to that. How would one get involved with smaller tasks at GIS Pro?
Oh, excellent. Well, when we do have registration open for GIS Pro this year, we're going to have a little checkbox to see if you'd like to be a moderator, for example. If you can still join the GIS Pro Conference Planning Committee, and even though you cannot maybe assist with the actual presentation, proposal review, and that sort of thing, you can still participate in numerous ways that would help us out at the conference. So definitely consider that, Katana.
All right, excellent. So I have connect up. So if you saw it on the main page, there's a little button where you can sign in, and I went ahead through the sign-in screen. And so it's kind of nice because it's integrated with the website. And there are a few different pieces here. The My Feed is what shows up that based on what you're in and what you're following, stuff shows up. And so Greg has a post about the Chapter Development and Relations Council. They have a meeting coming up. There's a section for your profile, your directory, if you want to find other organization members. But really the big thing is the groups. And if you are a member of a chapter or you've attended chapter events and you wind up following what they're doing, I'm in Virginia, not California, but it's helpful to know what some of the chapters are doing, or some committees that you're on. This is where these will show up. And so I know that we just had a professional education committee meeting yesterday. And so we were kind of looking at this, and if we go in here, this just has some information, kind of like Podio did, where you're just kind of sharing information with the committee. There's kind of a chat function here where you can share information back and forth. But we figured out that we can also have document libraries that we have up here. It will usually occur under the Pages piece. And so for PEC in the past, they've sent several things to the board, and so there is a folder that has an archive of different things that have been sent to the board, just so we have that. If you're part of the group, you're part of the committee, you're part of the chapter, you can use that to help store and organize files for easy reference. We also have our agendas and minutes in there. Photo gallery is also an option. We also have forums, and so these can exist as part of a group, or they can also exist generally. And let me see if I remember how to find my way back up there. Oh, depending on your screen, you may not see everything, so you may need to look down at quick links. But here is a forums, which is really just like an open discussion board. So we've had 12 posts and 5 topics on young and emerging professionals. We usually have some questions about GISP certification. And so that's another place where you can ask questions and get involved. One of the things I'm really excited about is the community calendar, which does pull together not just for the organization, but also from chapters and committees, things that are going and coming up. And so that's a really great function of what's there. So I think the best way to think about Connect is that it is a website platform for members that is integrated with the main ERISA website. And so we go to the main ERISA website to be able to log in, and there are some ties back and forth, and so the community calendar is actually out there. But a lot of great ways to see who's who and what's what, and get involved in different ways. And if you're not sure about the groups that are out there, you can go here and click on Find a Group. And what this will do is this will list all of the groups that you are not a part of. And so it's a great opportunity to see maybe some of those committee names or other groups of folks that are working. And it may not let you join every group. And so this is, you can join Florida, or it may, you can request an invite, and that's used for some of the more closed groups. Um, but a great opportunity to see what's going on, and maybe see some contacts, see some names, and ask questions, or figure out who you can reach out to and ask questions. Wendy, was there anything else that you wanted me to show about Connect?
No, I think that was a fantastic overview. And as we're getting to know it a little more, and we're using it more, we're finding different features and such that will really allow you to connect as it's supposed to do. So I put a little note in there about if you're, playing around and you see a committee that looks like it might be of interest to you, we are starting, the ERISA, the GPN, I did it again. The GPN year goes from GIS Pro to GIS Pro. So committees are just ramping up for their next year's work plans. So now's the perfect time to join a committee. If something looks interesting to you, either hit the join button within Connect, or send me an email directly, and I'll invite you to their next meeting, and you can give them a try and see where you might want to fit in and devote your limited availability. We all know that your volunteer capacities may get limited and may change depending on your circumstances, but there's always something you can do.
And I'm personally really excited about you can email all the members of your committee or group through Connect. That is awesome, fabulous, and fun. There was a question in there about the upcoming conference.
Yeah, I can answer a little bit about that. I don't know, is that the one you're talking about from Rachel?
Yes.
So Rachel, we have come up with an agreement with the GIS and the Rockies, and they are going to be heavily involved in the organization of the program and the conference itself. And so it's a partnership. We built out this partnership. We spent the last, year and a half or so working with the current board of GIS in the Rockies. Eltron is also going to be part of the planning committee for the GPN, as well as he's been part of the GIS in the Rockies board for a while. So really excited about that partnership. It's going to be GIS Pro in the Rockies. And it's super excited about that partnership that we have set up because we've been working on this for a while and finally got it in place. And I think it's going to be a fabulous conference. I know it's going to be a fabulous conference with everybody that's involved. We had the opportunity to talk to some of the GIS and the Rockies folks at the Esri conference, and they were super excited about the partnership and how we can develop this. And so they're going to be heavily involved every step of the way. Do you have any other questions in the last 2 minutes?
Don't see other questions in the chat. We are starting to lose some folks. It is a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a Friday afternoon for most of us, at least.
Yes.
But we're seeing some love. We're getting some hand claps. There's some good stuff in chat. And so it's the great thing about GPN is the people and the cool things that happen when we get together and share information about what it is we do with GIS, what it is we're doing in our committees and chapters, what it is we're doing as an organization. And so even if we're talking about something like, hey, what's going on with this rebranding thing, and what does the future look like, and how do we get involved? I think it's really awesome that we all get to energize for our weekend with some of that great, powerful synergy, GPN synergy, maybe,
Yes.
that we have from part of that. So, John, thanks for for hosting the town hall.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being part of it too. And thanks everybody that to join. It was I was really excited about doing this, and we'll continue to do these too throughout the year. I'm not sure when yet, but we'll probably do a few more of them. So please participate. Everybody have a great weekend too.